There are very few facets of the international student experience in the US that are as important as our personal finances. And yet, somehow, it is one of the least talked about things.
I remember I wasted a whole year before I even got my first credit card, and I'm still paying the repercussions for that decision or indecision even 5 years later.
The following is the most watched segment of my podcast episode with my friend and lifelong investor Raghav, where he shares the core principles and a lot of important resources using which you, an international student, can come up with a personal finance plan or philosophy that works for you. In addition to that, for those of you on an OPT or people that are employed and are earning money now, he also goes over how you can game credit cards to leverage the maximum benefits that are possible across different credit cards. Again, depending on things that you subjectively care for the most. I hope this is helpful. Subscribe for more international student tips and tricks, be it around the job search or otherwise. And if you want, check out the full podcast on the top right. Finally, please consider subscribing if this added value to your life. Cheers and thank you. My question is, what are some, I don't really like the word, but hacks or tools that general people can use in their daily lives as a part of their probably starting out their journey, but even people that have been investing for a while, what are some really accessible tools that could be used by everyday people to begin or continue their journey towards personal finance and smart personal finance, really?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that I'm also a student of this space. So whatever I say is coming from a plethora of information that's available for everybody's access online. And I think what I would love to speak to is a little more philosophical than exact, but I'll definitely get to exact because I know that feels exciting as well. Philosophically, I think there are two or three things that, got me to think about personal finance really strongly. One of them is just what I need to achieve with it is the discipline and the sort of goals of building wealth. And I know that doesn't just come from investing, but also in how I deal with my money. And that's where all the hacks come into the picture. So just going back to what you want to do this for is really important to start off as as a foundation. And then I think when you think about my principle of discounts, right, or liking things that are undervalued or liking things that I can achieve at a slightly lesser price than what everybody else would pay for, that brings a lot of color into my personal finance or how I manage my money as well. For example, I utilize a lot of learnings online that tell me how I can spend in different ways that I do for all of my different necessary expenditures as well as leisure expenditures. I make sure that there's a system in place for each of those. I capitalize on various, um, uh, I guess, marketing and promotions and deals that a lot of customer benefiting companies come up with. And I think that's what I try to build my portfolio of. I think um, what I'd like to get to in terms of specifics or hacks is that there's various compartments that you can divide your money into or expenditures into. One of them is of course investing that we spoke deeply about. The other one is your expenses that are unavoidable. Your rent is
Right.
unavoidable.
Fixed
Your
costs.
food, exactly. Food, rent. You would love to travel. If you do love to travel just like me, travel is unavoidable, honestly. No, in all seriousness, though, travel is something that comes into the leisure bucket. There's expenditures on various shopping sprees that you go out on and stuff like that that comes into the leisure bucket for me. But there's ways in which I could find the right amount to spend on and the right deals that so that I can feel one a little accomplished about how I'm being conscious about my personal finance and how I'm being mindful of the money that I'm spending as well, so that I achieve the most optimum inflow and outflow of money. Um, Tax, there are of course credit cards that I'm super involved with. I pay my rent using the right credit card, so that I earn points on it, which essentially I try to convert in my head at discounts or value that can fund my future legit expenses. Is um like I said, marketing from these consumer loving companies, right? I try to utilize those. I have some liquid funds that I can deploy in certain banks who would give me a little bit of promotional money for my fun leisure activities. I try to utilize those. I try to go out and find deals on gift cards, which people try to sell online on discounts, so that I can use those to buy groceries for myself. So there's a lot of various things that I do within these buckets of expenses that help me find that satisfaction to get things on a discount, or on a value that's attractive to me.
So, is a good way to think about this that necessarily there is no end to the amount of hacking or using these offers or discounts or the right credit card for a certain activity that one can get to? Would you say that it really just boils down to one's appetite of how scrappy do you want to get here? Like, if you want to buy, say, a TV on Amazon, how many people are you willing to reach out to and bug before you end up pulling the trigger? Is that a decent way to look at this?
That's a great way to look at this. And that's what I essentially do, which is to find the right amount that makes it worth my while, to find, the value to decrease for something that I'm trying to buy, or like monetary value to decrease, but my value to increase. Think in the back of my head in a very rudimentary manner. What I try to do is assess what value is my time worth, and how much value am I attaining to be able to put into that time, and then put into that activity, and then extrapolate it over a period of time. For example, I'm learning about utilizing certain points a certain way through a credit card that at this moment might only give me $50 worth of value, and it would take a bunch of time for me to figure it out. But if I'm able to convert that into a process of hacks for the future, I think that's worth my while. And that's a good system for me to add to my portfolio of personal finance. I think I'd approach it that.
Makes sense. I think that's a super helpful rule of thumb. So on that topic though, on the credit card gaming, really, that whole you hear a lot of stuff online, and I suspect a lot of it is just kind of made of fluff, if I'm being very honest. So I think I'd be really curious to really just kind of get a gaming 101, and by gaming here I'm referring to credit card gaming 101, and like where exactly does one draw the boundary, and what's a decent safe quote unquote way to go about doing that, because I have heard that there are a lot of gains that people leave on the table a lot of times just because of the misinformation around, or yeah, really just lack of awareness, honestly, a lot of time. So I think I would really benefit from that, 101 around that.
Yeah, okay. So gaming 101 would also involve me defining what gaming is, which is essentially churning out of various products that give you a huge amount of value on at the face of it, or like right off the bat. But then over a period of time, you've only entered or bought that product because you wanted that value and not to utilize what services that product gives you. In an example of a credit card, you would sign up for a credit card because they give you a lot of sign on bonuses for your initial spend. But you don't mean to utilize that credit card often because you know that doesn't fall in an optimized manner in your portfolio. And you keep doing this with multiple credit cards, and that's essentially what gaming a credit card would be like. I think the online world, and this is my sort of perspective from what I've heard across various portfolios, is split in the middle in terms of liking or disliking gaming. uh I personally think that we're part of a world where you know taking value out of certain things involves you to be able to define that value in dollars. And that's where my perspective comes into picture of just being okay with finding the right deals that can help me put myself into a great optimized personal financial situation. And that's how I approach gaming. So there are credit cards that I don't use, there are credit cards that I use. what gaming would do for me is get me a lot of value out of each of those credit cards. But I try to control myself or optimize my level of signing on to these products is by being aware of what that would do to my credit score or to my level of application or capacity to access this tool in the future. For example, I want a particular credit card, and that's going to be the most optimized for my portfolio that I'm going to want to have a long term relationship with. But this credit card is hard to get and requires me to sort of be better with the signups and better with my portfolio, less entries of new products. So I would stop myself and say that, hey, this card adds more value to my portfolio. So I would want to wait. I would not want to sign up to more products and get that credit card. I think that's sort of the 101 for me is to be mindful of what you're signing up to, but also understand that there's a lot of value that you could achieve if you ended up signing up for a lot of bonuses or signed up for a lot of products that these companies want you to take up. Think I try to detach myself from the idea that, hey, this may not be right just because you don't want to use the product. It's okay for me to still sign up. I'm still there's tons of valuation models built behind these products and behind the way in which they give you these discounts, and these companies do make sure that they account for the gains that you're trying to achieve out of it and try to earn all the money that they still need to from you. So there's still this element of give and take between you and the company. And I think what you're getting out of it is great as long as you're not stretching yourself.
Yeah, and I guess a version of that discourse that's also that I have seen, and again, bear in mind that I'm not even really from this whole sphere, is that a lot of people say that what you get up front from that sign on bonus actually gets taken out of you as the years go by. And once you have to start paying, annual fees and such, which I know not every credit card has. And again, I don't mean to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm just curious to hear your, take on that whole discourse. So, is the right thing to do to just then cancel or like stop using the card after that promotional period is over, or do you just keep that in the back burner? And so yeah, like I guess, yeah, how do you go about when situations like that come up?
Yeah, I think when it comes to personal finance and anything associated with your journey of building wealth, I would love for me to not ever keep anything on the back burner. I would love for me to be super aware, super conscious of what's happening with my portfolio of various products and investments that I'm a part of. To answer your question though, yeah, that's the approach that I take is if I'm not using a card, I'm going to and if there's a membership fee associated with it, I try to find ways to downgrade the card or uh, cancel that account. Consider that there's going to be repercussions for both in terms of your credit score. For in my experience, for my credit score, those have been short-lived to really impact my process of approaching personal finance. But you would want to be super aware of what's happening, what that's doing to your personal system. I think there's tons of resources online. I would love for everybody to access those resources before there are decisions made. But I think that's the approach that I take is go ahead and cancel the card. I also tell myself that if I'm spending $4,000 that a card wants me to spend in a certain period of time before they give me the sign on bonus, I think the card's earning that money through the spend that they need to be able to justify the sign on bonus. So that's the give and take that I was speaking about, which essentially just puts me in the right spot to be able to access that sign on bonus. The element that you're talking about, which is that the company ends up getting what they need in the long term, has a lot of elements that a simple consumer wouldn't understand. I work at a bank in a credit card company, so I actually do understand how the company ends up making money. And it's not just you spending on the card, but also at a very high level, their entire portfolio of spend bringing them a certain contractual benefit that would that they're okay with you being that churner that you are. They either would give you the card if you're a churner, if it falls in the profitable spectrum for them, or they would reject you if it does not. Trust me, or trust in the company to make the most capitalistic and financially beneficial decisions for themselves, because that's what they're in the market to do.